The research ship Stellar Harmony moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Dr. Yuki checked her equipment one more time. She was excited about this mission. For 3 years she had studied the old ruins scattered across dead worlds. Now she was finally going to see them with her own eyes. "How much longer until we reach the planet?" she asked Commander Taemin. Taemin looked up from his security console. His black hair was cut short, and his brown eyes were always watching for danger. 2 hours, maybe 3. Bora says the engines are running well. Bora was down in the engine room making sure everything worked properly. She was the best engineer Yuki had ever worked with. Her hands could fix anything, and she understood machines like they were her children. The 3 humans were not alone on the ship. 6 other crew members belonged to different alien species. They were all part of the Galactic Confederation, or so they said. Yuki trusted them because they had helped set up this research mission. The aliens looked different from each other. Some were tall and thin with gray skin. Others were shorter with blue scales. Their leader was called Zethkul. He had 4 arms and spoke in a voice that sounded like metal grinding against stone. "We are almost there," Zethkul announced to everyone. "The dead world holds many secrets. We will learn much today," Yuki nodded. She had read all the reports about this planet. Long ago it had been home to a great civilization. Now it was empty and cold. The air was poison and nothing lived there anymore. But the ruins remained. Ancient buildings and strange machines waited in the silence. The ship's computer made a soft beeping sound. They had arrived. Through the window, Yuki saw a brown planet covered in dust storms. It looked sad and lonely, spinning slowly in the darkness. She felt sorry for whatever people had lived there before. Scanning the surface, announced one of the gray-skinned aliens. "I am finding the ruins. They are bigger than we thought." Taemin moved closer to look at the screen. His job was to keep everyone safe, so he always checked for danger first. "Any signs of life down there?" "No life signs detected," the alien replied. "The ruins appear to be completely dead." Bora's voice came through the communication system from the engine room. "All systems are good. We can land whenever you want." Yuki felt her heart beat faster. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "Let's go down and take a look." The ship landed near the largest group of ruins. Through her helmet, Yuki could see tall towers made of black stone. Strange symbols were carved into the walls. Some buildings were broken and fallen down, but others still stood strong after thousands of years. "Amazing," she whispered as she stepped onto the planet's surface. These people knew how to build things that last. Taemin walked beside her, his hand near his weapon. He didn't like this place. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't say what. "Stay close together," he told everyone. "We don't know what might be hiding in those buildings." The alien crew members spread out around the ruins. They seemed very interested in certain buildings. Yuki noticed they were looking at things differently now. Before they had seemed friendly and curious. Now they looked hungry, like animals hunting for food. "Dr. Yuki," called Zethkul, "come and see this. I think you will find it very interesting." Yuki walked over to where the alien leader was standing. There was a large door made of the same black stone as the buildings. Strange lights flickered around its edges. The symbols on the door seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. "What do you think it is?" she asked. "A control center, perhaps, or maybe something more important." Zethkul's forearms moved in patterns she didn't understand. "Touch the door, Dr. Yuki. Your human hands might activate it." Something in his voice made her feel nervous. Taemin must have heard it too because he moved closer to her. "Maybe we should scan it first," he suggested. "No need for that," said one of the other aliens. "Dr. Yuki is the expert on these ruins. She should be the first to explore them." Yuki reached out slowly and placed her hand on the door. The stone felt warm, which was strange on such a cold planet. The symbols began to glow brighter, and she heard a deep humming sound coming from inside the building. Suddenly, the door slid open. Air rushed out with a sound like a giant taking a breath. Red lights came on inside the building, showing a long hallway that disappeared into darkness. "Wonderful," said Zethkul. "You have opened the way. Now we can see what secrets this place holds." But as soon as Yuki stepped through the door, she knew something was terribly wrong. The aliens behind her changed. Their friendly faces became cold and cruel. Their hands moved to weapons she hadn't noticed before. "Taemin," she shouted, but it was too late. Energy beams filled the air. Taemin threw himself in front of Yuki, taking a blast meant for her. He cried out in pain and fell to the ground. Bora came running from the ship, but more aliens were waiting for her. They surrounded her before she could reach her friends. "You humans are so trusting," Zethkul said with a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "Did you really think we were part of your peaceful galactic confederation? We are the Vorthak Empire. We take what we want from weak species like yours." Yuki knelt beside Taemin. He was badly hurt but still breathing. Blood was coming from wounds on his chest and arm. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because you Deathworlders have something we need," Zethkul replied. "Your planet Earth is rich in resources. Your people are strong and can work hard. You will make excellent slaves." "We'll never tell you where Earth is," Bora said from where the aliens held her. Zethkul laughed again. "You will tell us everything we want to know. We have ways of making humans talk. And when you do, your whole species will serve the Vorthak Empire." The aliens forced the three humans into the ancient building. The red lights showed rooms full of strange machines. Some looked like they hadn't been used in thousands of years. Others seemed to be turning on by themselves. "How convenient," said one of the aliens. "The ancient torture devices still work. The previous owners of this planet knew how to make their prisoners talk." Yuki felt sick. She realized that the aliens had brought them here on purpose. They had planned this from the beginning. The research mission was just a trap to catch humans far from Earth. They were locked in separate metal cages. Taemin needed medical help, but the aliens didn't care if he died. They only wanted information about Earth's location and defenses. Hours passed. The aliens took turns asking questions and threatening them. When the humans refused to answer, the aliens hurt them with energy weapons that caused terrible pain, but left no permanent marks. "Your people think they are safe on their little planet," Zethkul told Yuki during one session. "They think the galaxy doesn't know about them. But we have been watching and waiting. Soon the Vorthak Empire will harvest your world like we have harvested so many others. Earth has defenses," Yuki lied. "Strong weapons and brave soldiers. From a primitive Deathworld species?" The alien leader made a sound like spitting. "Impossible. You barely have space travel. Your weapons are simple metal and chemical explosives. Our ships will brush aside your defenses like dust." Taemin was getting weaker. The wounds from the energy weapons were not healing properly. During the night when most of the aliens were sleeping, he managed to crawl closer to where Yuki was caged. "I'm going to try something," he whispered. "My security communicator has an emergency beacon. If I can modify it, maybe I can send a message toward home." "They'll catch you," Yuki whispered back. "Maybe. But if there's any chance someone might hear us, I have to try." Using parts from his damaged equipment, Taemin worked slowly and quietly. His hands shook from pain, but he didn't give up. Finally, just before dawn, he managed to send out a weak signal toward the direction of Earth. One of the alien guards saw the small light from the communicator. He kicked Taemin hard in the ribs and took the device away. "What is this?" Zethkul demanded when he was shown the communicator. "Emergency beacon," Taemin said through gritted teeth. "I sent a distress call." The alien leader looked at the small device and laughed. "This pathetic thing? It's barely powerful enough to reach the edge of this solar system. Even if it somehow traveled all the way to your homeworld, who would hear it? Your people don't even know where you are." He threw the communicator on the ground and crushed it under his foot. "No one is coming to save you, Deathworlders. You are alone, just like all the other species we have conquered. Now let's continue our conversation about Earth's location." As the torture began again, Yuki looked up at the alien stars visible through a crack in the ancient building. She hoped Taemin's message had somehow gotten through, but deep in her heart she feared that Zethkul was right. They were alone, and no one would ever know what had happened to them. 3 weeks had passed since the Vorthak Empire captured the 3 humans. Taemin was barely alive. His wounds had gotten worse because the aliens gave him no medicine. He could barely stand up anymore, but his eyes still held anger and defiance. Yuki and Bora were in better shape, but not by much. The aliens had moved them from the ancient ruins to their main warship. The ship was huge and dark inside. Strange smells filled the air, and the walls were covered with weapons and torture devices. Every day, Zethkul came to ask them questions. Every day, they refused to give him what he wanted. "Where is Earth?" the alien commander asked Yuki for the 100th time. His forearms gestured impatiently. "What are your planet's defenses? How many ships do you have?" Yuki looked at him with tired eyes. "I already told you. Earth has no defenses. We're a peaceful planet. We don't have warships or soldiers." This was partly true and partly a lie. Earth did have some defenses, but Yuki was trying to make them sound weaker than they really were. She hoped this would make the aliens careless when they finally found her home. Peaceful, Zethkul repeated with disgust. That's what all the weak species say before we conquer them. But Deathworlders are different. Your people survived on a planet that tried to kill them every day. That doesn't happen without violence. He was right about that. Earth was a dangerous world compared to most planets. It had storms, earthquakes, wild animals, and diseases. Humans had learned to be tough and smart to survive there. But Yuki wasn't going to admit that to her captors. In the cage next to hers, Bora was pretending to sleep. But Yuki knew she was actually working on something. During their time on the ship, the engineer had been secretly studying the alien technology. When the guards weren't watching, she would touch parts of her cage and the walls around it. "What are you learning?" Yuki whispered when the guards were far away. "Their ships are strong, but they're built wrong," Bora whispered back. "They rely too much on energy shields. If you could get past the shields, the metal underneath is soft. Also, their weapons are powerful but use too much energy. They probably can't fight for very long. This information might be useful someday, but right now they were still prisoners." Taman was getting sicker, and the aliens were getting more impatient. "We know Earth is somewhere in the direction your beacon was sent," Zethkul told them during another interrogation session. "We have 12 warships in our fleet. We will visit every star in that region until we find your homeworld. Then we will take everything we want." "You'll never find it," Taman said weakly from where he lay on the floor. "Space is too big. There are too many stars, perhaps, but we have time. And we have ways of making humans more cooperative." The alien leader signaled to his guards. "Bring the pain amplifiers." Yuki had seen the pain amplifiers before. They were alien devices that could cause terrible suffering without actually damaging the body. She had experienced them several times during her interrogations. The pain was so bad it made her want to scream until her throat was raw. But as the guards came closer with the devices, alarms suddenly started ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on and off, and the aliens began shouting to each other in their harsh language. "What's happening?" Zethkul demanded. One of his officers ran into the room. "Commander, our long-range sensors are detecting objects approaching our position. Large objects moving very fast. Pirates? Other empires trying to steal our prisoners? Unknown, sir. But they're big. Much bigger than our ships. And they're moving at speeds that should be impossible." Zethkul's expression changed from annoyed to worried. "How many objects?" "The sensors keep finding more of them. At least 20, maybe more. They appeared out of nowhere, like they were hiding somehow." The alien commander looked at the 3 human prisoners. For the first time since their capture, he seemed uncertain. "Could your people have followed us somehow?" Yuki felt her heart jump with hope, but she tried not to show it. "I told you, we don't have warships. Earth barely has any space travel at all." "Then who?" Zethkul was interrupted by another officer running into the room. "Commander, we're receiving a communication signal. It's directed at us specifically." "From the approaching ships?" "Yes, sir." "The signal is strong and clear. Should I put it through to the main speakers?" Zethkul thought for a moment, then nodded. "Do it. Let's hear what these strangers want." The speakers crackled to life. Then a human voice filled the room, speaking in clear English. The voice was calm, but carried a tone of absolute authority. "This is Admiral Wu Jin of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You are holding 3 of our citizens prisoner. Return them to us immediately, and we will allow you to leave this system alive." Yuki gasped. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. The Earth Defense Fleet? She had never heard of such a thing. As far as she knew, Earth had only a few small exploration ships and some orbital defense stations. Zethkul looked shocked. His 4 arms trembled slightly as he activated the communication system. "This is Commander Zethkul of the Vorthak Empire. Your people are our prisoners. We do not negotiate with primitives from backwater worlds." The human voice replied without emotion. "You have 60 seconds to release our people and withdraw your ships. This is your only warning." "Warning." Zethkul laughed, but it sounded forced. "You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? We have conquered 100 worlds. We have destroyed species far more advanced than yours." 50 seconds, the human voice said simply. Zethkul turned to his officers. "Show me what we're facing. Put the sensor readings on the main screen." The room's wall lit up with a tactical display. Yuki could see 12 red dots representing the Vorthak ships. But surrounding them were 27 blue dots arranged in a perfect sphere formation. The blue dots were much larger than the red ones. "That's impossible. whispered one of the alien officers. "Those ships are 3 times the size of our largest dreadnoughts. And look at their energy signatures. They're running power levels that should melt their hulls." Bora was staring at the display with wide eyes. "Those aren't exploration ships," she said quietly. "Those are warships. Real warships built for fighting." 30 seconds, the human voice announced. Zethkul was starting to panic. "Open communication channels to all our ships. Prepare for battle. Charge all weapons and raise shields to maximum power." "Sir," another officer reported. "The enemy ships are doing something. Their energy signatures are changing." On the tactical display, the blue dots suddenly became much brighter. Yuki could see new information appearing next to each ship. Weapon systems coming online. Shield generators reaching full power. Engines building up energy for combat maneuvers. 20 seconds. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, "I'm reading weapon systems on those ships that I don't recognize. Energy levels are off the charts. And they're targeting all of our ships simultaneously." Zethkul was sweating now. The confident alien commander had become a frightened creature, facing something beyond his understanding. "How is this possible? Earth is a primitive world. Your species barely knows how to leave your own planet." Yuki found herself smiling despite everything she had been through. "Maybe you don't know as much about humans as you thought." 10 seconds, the human voice said. "I suggest you make your decision quickly, Commander." The alien looked at his officers, at his tactical displays, at the overwhelming force that had appeared around his fleet. 12 ships against 27. Smaller ships against much larger ones. Familiar technology against completely unknown weapons. 5 seconds. "Wait," Zethkul shouted into the communicator. We wish to discuss terms." "The time for discussion has passed," Admiral Wujin replied. "You had your chance to do this peacefully. Now you get to learn why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders." "Time's up," the human voice said simply. The first shots came without any more warning. The Vorthak ship's sensors screamed as energy beams more powerful than anything they had ever seen lanced out from the human fleet. But these weren't random attacks. Each beam was precisely targeted. One Vorthak ship lost its weapons but remained intact. Another had its engines disabled. A third found its communication systems destroyed but everything else untouched. The human ships were demonstrating a level of precision and control that seemed impossible. "They're not trying to kill us," one of the alien officers said in amazement. "They're disabling us piece by piece. Sir, we're receiving damage reports from all our ships. Nobody is destroyed, but half our fleet is already unable to fight." Zethkul stared at the tactical display as his proud fleet was methodically taken apart by an enemy that could have destroyed them all in the first few seconds if they had wanted to. "Who are these humans?" he whispered. The answer came from Admiral Wujin's voice, still calm and controlled. "We are the people you made a mistake with, Commander. You took our family. Now you learn what happens when you threaten the pack." Taemin raised his head from where he lay injured on the floor. Despite his pain, he was smiling. "I told you someone would come," he said weakly. "Humans don't leave their people behind." The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 8 Vorthak ships were nothing but glowing debris floating in space. The remaining 4 ships, including Zethkul's flagship, hung powerless in the darkness with their engines dead and weapons destroyed. Inside the alien commander's ship, emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. The air smelled of burned metal and fear. Zethkul stood in his command center, staring at the tactical display that showed his fleet's complete defeat. "How?" he whispered. "How did primitive Deathworlders build ships like that?" Through the main viewing window, he could see one of the human dreadnoughts approaching. It was massive, easily 5 times larger than his own flagship. Its dark hull was covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. Strange blue energy flowed along lines carved into its armor, making it look alive and dangerous. The ship's name was written in human letters across its bow, UES Retribution. "Incoming communication from the human flagship," one of his surviving officers reported. "Put it through," Zethkul said quietly. A new human voice filled the command center. This one belonged to someone younger than the admiral, but it carried the same tone of absolute confidence. "This is Captain Hyunsu of the UES Retribution. Commander Zethkul, you will prepare to transfer your human prisoners to our ship immediately." "And if I refuse?" the alien commander asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we will take them anyway and you will not survive the experience." Your choice, Commander. Zethko looked around at his damaged ship and his frightened crew. The humans had demonstrated that they could destroy his entire fleet whenever they wanted. They had chosen to disable most of his ships instead of killing everyone. That suggested they had some mercy, but only for those who cooperated. We agree to transfer the prisoners, he said finally. Good decision. You have 10 minutes to get them ready. Any tricks, any delays, any attempt to harm them further, and this conversation ends permanently. The communication channel closed, leaving the alien commander alone with his thoughts. Everything he had believed about humanity was wrong. They weren't primitive. They weren't helpless. And they certainly weren't alone. In the prison section of the ship, Yuki, Bora, and Taimin heard the sounds of the battle ending. The constant shaking and noise of weapon impacts had stopped. Now there was only the quiet hum of emergency power systems. We won, Taimin said weakly. They actually came for us, but how? Yuki asked. I thought Earth barely had any military ships. Bora was examining the damaged walls around their prison cells. Maybe we don't know as much about our own planet as we thought. Or maybe they built these ships in secret. The prison door opened and several Vorthak guards entered, but instead of the cruel confidence they usually showed, these aliens looked nervous and frightened. Their leader, a tall gray-skinned creature, spoke in broken English. You come with us now. Your people want you back. They were taken through corridors filled with smoke and sparking electronics. Everywhere they looked, they saw signs of the battle's damage. The human weapons had been incredibly precise, destroying only what they needed to while leaving the rest of the ship intact. When they reached the main hangar, Yuki gasped at what she saw. A human shuttle was already there waiting for them. It was sleek and white, much more advanced than anything she had seen before. Armed human soldiers in powered armor stood guard around it. One of the soldiers stepped forward and removed his helmet, revealing a young Korean face with kind eyes. Dr. Yuki, Engineer Bora, Commander Taemin. I'm Lieutenant Dong-hyun of the Marine Corps. We're here to take you home. Taemin was too weak to walk, so the soldiers carefully lifted him onto a medical stretcher. As they moved him toward the shuttle, he looked up at Lieutenant Dong-hyun. How many ships do we have out there? 27 Dreadnoughts in this fleet, sir. But this is just one battle group. There are others. Yuki felt dizzy. 27 ships like the one she had seen through the window? How had Earth built such a fleet without anyone knowing about it? As they boarded the shuttle, she looked back at the Vorthak guards watching them leave. The aliens no longer looked like terrifying conquerors. They looked like small creatures who had accidentally awakened something far more dangerous than themselves. The shuttle flight to the human flagship took only a few minutes. Through the window, Yuki could see the other human ships spread out in formation around them. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering, covered with weapons and armor that made them look like metal predators floating in space. The UES Retribution's hangar was huge and brightly lit. Human crew members in clean uniforms were waiting to greet them. A medical team rushed forward to take care of Taemin, while others offered food and water to Yuki and Bora. Welcome aboard, said a woman with captain's stripes on her uniform. I'm Captain Hyunsu. I know you've been through a terrible experience, but you're safe now. Yuki looked around at the advanced technology surrounding them. The hangar alone was bigger than some of the space stations she had visited. Captain, I have to ask, how does Earth have ships like this? When I left on my research mission, we barely had anything more advanced than exploration vessels. Captain Hyunsu smiled. There's a lot about human space capabilities that isn't public knowledge, Dr. Yuki. Come, Admiral Wu Jin wants to meet with you. He'll explain everything. They were taken through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The ship was not just large, it was enormous. Yuki saw weapon control rooms, engineering sections, medical bays, and laboratories that were more advanced than anything on Earth. At least, anything she had known about. The Admiral's ready room was a comfortable space with earth plants growing in planters and pictures of Earth's oceans on the walls. Admiral Wu Jin was older than Yuki had expected, with gray hair and weathered hands, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Please sit down, he said gently. I know you have many questions. Admiral, Yuki began, where did all these ships come from? How long has Earth had this kind of military force? About 30 years, the Admiral replied. We've been building the defense fleet since we first detected alien signals from deep space. We knew this day would come eventually. Bora leaned forward. But why keep it secret? Why let people think we were defenseless? Because we hoped we would never need to use these ships. We wanted to remain hidden, to avoid exactly this kind of situation. But when Commander Taemin's beacon reached us, we had no choice but to act. The beacon worked? Yuki asked in amazement. Admiral Wu Jin nodded. Our deep space monitoring stations picked up the signal 18 days ago. We've been tracking the alien fleet ever since, learning their capabilities, planning our response. And now? Bora asked. Now everything changes, the Admiral said seriously. The galaxy knows about us. There will be other alien empires like the Vorthak who see Earth as a target. We can't hide anymore. Through the room's window, Yuki could see one of the disabled Vorthak ships drifting in space. It looked small and helpless compared to the human dreadnoughts surrounding it. What happens to them? She asked. The survivors will be returned to their empire with a message, Admiral Wu Jin explained. They need to understand that humanity is not a target. We are protectors now. Captain Hyun-soo entered the room and saluted. Admiral, we're receiving communications from other sectors. Word about the battle is spreading fast. Several species that have been victims of the Vorthak Empire are sending messages. What kind of messages? The Admiral asked. Distress calls, sir. They're asking for our help. Admiral Wu Jin was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the stars. Finally, he turned back to the others. For decades, we tried to stay hidden. We thought we could avoid getting involved in galactic politics. But some things are more important than staying safe. What do you mean? Yuki asked. I mean that no distress call will go unanswered while human ships patrol these stars. The Vorthak Empire made one critical mistake. They showed us that there are innocent people out here who need protection. He activated the ship's communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Wu Jin. Set course for the nearest star system that sent a distress call. The galaxy is about to learn what it means when Deathworlders decide to get involved. As the massive fleet began to move, Yuki realized that everything had changed. Earth was no longer a hidden world trying to avoid attention. They had become something much more dangerous and much more important. They had become the answer to every species that had ever sent a cry for help into the darkness of space. The medical bay of the UES Indomitable was unlike anything Yuki had ever seen. The walls were white and clean, filled with equipment that seemed to work by themselves. Robot arms moved carefully over Taemin's body, healing his wounds with lights and medicines that the aliens had never bothered to give him. Dr. Daun, the ship's chief medical officer, watched the machines work while checking readings on a floating screen. She was a small woman with gentle hands, but her eyes showed the kind of knowledge that came from treating many wounded soldiers. He'll be fine, she told Yuki and Bora. The alien weapons did damage, but nothing we can't fix. Your friend is tougher than he looks. Taemin was already looking better. The pale color was leaving his skin and he could sit up without help. How long until I can get back to work? He asked. A few more days, Dr. Daun replied. But first you need rest. All three of you do. Being prisoners is hard on both the body and the mind. As she spoke, the medical bay doors opened. Several alien prisoners were brought in, escorted by human guards. These were Vorthak crew members who had been injured during the battle. They looked scared and confused as they were placed on medical beds. Yuki watched in amazement as Dr. Daun and her team began treating the aliens with the same care they had given Taemin. The robot arms moved over alien wounds and medicine flowed into their strange blood vessels. One of the Vorthak prisoners, a young creature with only 2 arms instead of the usual 4, stared at Dr. Daun as she worked on his injuries. Why? He asked in broken English. Why do you help us? We are your enemies. Dr. Daun paused in her work to look at him. Because you're hurt. That's enough reason for me. But we tried to conquer your people. We would have made you slaves. Yes, you did. But that doesn't mean I'm going to let you suffer when I can help you. She continued working on his wounds. Maybe if more people in the galaxy thought like this, there would be fewer wars. The young alien was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I don't understand your species. Most people don't, Dr. Daun replied with a small smile. We don't always understand ourselves. Later that day, Yuki, Bora, and Taemin were taken to meet with the Vorthak prisoners who could still talk. The meeting was held in a comfortable room with chairs and a table. Human guards stood nearby, but they kept their weapons lowered. Commander Zethkul sat across from them, looking very different from the confident leader who had captured them weeks ago. His forearms were bandaged, and his eyes held a confusion that Yuki had never seen before. I need to understand, he said quietly. Your species. You're not what we thought you were. What did you think we were? Taman asked. Primitives, savages from a backwater world. Our scouts told us that humans barely knew how to leave their planet. Your weapons were simple metal projectiles and chemical explosives. Your ships were slow and weak. Bora leaned forward. Your scouts were looking at the wrong things. They saw our civilian technology, not our military technology. But how is that possible? Every species we've encountered shows their strongest weapons first. They want to scare away attackers, not us, Taman said. We learned long ago that sometimes the best defense is to let your enemies think you're weaker than you really are. Zethkul shook his head. Those ships that defeated our fleet, where did they come from? How long have you had them? 30 years, Yuki answered. But they're not just ships, Commander. They're the result of what happens when a species like ours decides to prepare for war. What do you mean, a species like yours? It was Bora who answered, and her voice was calm but serious. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Storms that could level cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, diseases that killed millions, animals that saw us as food. We learned to survive by being smarter, stronger, and more stubborn than anything that wanted to destroy us. But that's just evolution, one of the other Vorthak prisoners said. Many species face challenges. Not like ours, Taman replied. Earth didn't just have dangerous animals or bad weather. It had everything. Volcanoes, ice ages, plagues, floods, droughts, and predators that could kill us in 100 different ways. We survived by learning to work together and by never ever giving up. Zethkul was listening carefully. But your technology was built by people who grew up expecting everything to go wrong, Bora explained. Every human ship has backup systems for the backup systems. Every weapon is designed to keep working even when half of it is destroyed. Every plan has a dozen alternatives ready to use. That's why your scouts underestimated us, Yuki added. They looked at our civilian technology and saw peaceful exploration ships. They didn't see the military shipyards hidden in asteroid belts and on the dark sides of moons. They didn't understand that humans don't just build for normal conditions. Taman said, we build for the worst possible conditions because on Earth, the worst possible conditions happen all the time. The alien commander was quiet for several minutes, thinking about what he had learned. Finally, he asked, why didn't you conquer other worlds? With ships like yours, you could rule half the galaxy. Because we didn't want to, Yuki replied simply. We had everything we needed on Earth. Why would we want to hurt other people to get more? But now you're here fighting us. Because you took our family, Taman said, and his voice became hard. That's the one thing you should never do to humans. We can forgive a lot of things, but we don't forgive people who hurt our family. Your family, but you're not related to each other. Doesn't matter, Bora explained. All humans are family. When you captured us, you declared war on every human in the galaxy. That's why they came for us with 27 ships instead of just 1 or 2. At that moment, Lieutenant Colonel Jin Wu entered the room. He was the fleet's chief tactical officer, a quiet man with sharp eyes who had planned the attack that destroyed the Vorthak fleet. Commander Zethkul, he said politely, Admiral Wu Jin asked me to explain something to you. He wants you to understand the situation before we send you back to your empire. What situation? The alien commander asked nervously. Jinwu activated a holographic display that showed a map of local space. Red dots marked the locations of various alien empires, including the Vorthak. Blue dots showed human patrol routes and fleet positions. For 30 years, we've been watching the galaxy, Jinwu explained. We know about every empire, every trade route, every conflict. We know which species are aggressors and which are victims. The map zoomed in to show the Vorthak Empire's territory. Dozens of conquered worlds were marked with different symbols. We know about every world you've enslaved, every species you've destroyed, every atrocity you've committed. We've been keeping records. Zethkul looked at the display with growing horror. You've been watching us for 30 years? Why didn't you stop us? Because we hoped we could stay hidden, Jinwu replied. We didn't want to get involved in galactic politics, but you forced our hand when you took our people. What happens now? The alien commander asked quietly. Now you go back to your empire with a message, Jinwu said. Any Vorthak ship that attacks innocent worlds will face the human fleet. Any species that preys on others will find us waiting for them. But there are other empires like ours. Many others. You can't fight them all. Jinwu smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Commander, you've seen one battle group. We have 12 others, each with its own fleet of dreadnoughts. And we've been building new ships for 30 years. The tactical map changed again, showing the true extent of human military power. Hundreds of blue dots appeared across the galaxy, marking patrol routes, hidden bases, and ship construction facilities. How is this possible? Sethkul whispered. Because we're humans, Taman said from his medical chair. We prepare for the worst, and then we prepare for something even worse than that. And now, Yuki added, the galaxy gets to learn what happens when the most stubborn species in known space decides that certain things are not acceptable anymore. Dr. Dayun finished her work on the alien prisoners and came over to check on the humans. As she examined Taman's healing wounds, she spoke to the aliens. You know, this didn't have to happen. If you had just left innocent people alone, you never would have met us. We were happy to stay hidden, but you didn't, Bora said. You chose to hurt people who couldn't defend themselves. So now you get to deal with people who can. As the meeting ended and the alien prisoners were taken back to their holding areas, Sethkul looked back at the three humans who had started this whole conflict by refusing to give up their secrets. I think I'm beginning to understand why they call you Deathworlders, he said quietly. No, Taman replied, settling back into his medical bed. I don't think you do, but you will. 3 months later, the Galactic Council chamber on the neutral world of Nexus Prime was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. The Great Hall had hosted many important meetings over the centuries, but never one like this. Ambassador Sujin stood at the center of the chamber, representing humanity for the first time in galactic history. She was a small woman with calm eyes and a voice that carried clearly through the vast room. Behind her, holographic displays showed the results of humanity's first months as an active galactic power. The numbers were impressive. 12 Vorthak fleets destroyed, 53 slave worlds liberated, over 200 million beings freed from various forms of oppression, 6 different aggressive empires forced to withdraw from territories they had invaded. Honored delegates, Ambassador Sujin began. 3 months ago, most of you had never heard of humanity. We were content to remain hidden, observing but not participating in galactic affairs. She paused to let her words translate into the various alien languages filling the chamber. That changed when the Vorthak Empire made the mistake of capturing 3 human citizens. In doing so, they forced us to reveal ourselves and our capabilities. A Vorthak representative, one of the few survivors from Sethkul's original fleet, stood up to speak. The humans deceived us. They pretended to be weak while building secret armies. We built defenses, Ambassador Sujin replied calmly. Every species has the right to defend itself. The mistake you made was assuming that because we chose peace, we were incapable of war. But your military power, called out a delegate from the Zalarian Federation, it exceeds anything we've seen. How did a single world build such a fleet? The ambassador activated a holographic display showing Earth. The planet looked blue and green and beautiful, but the display also showed its violent history. Volcanic eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, and countless other disasters that had shaped human evolution. We come from what you call a death world, she explained. For millions of years, our planet tried to kill us with storms, earthquakes, predators, and diseases. We survived by becoming the most adaptable and stubborn species on that world. When we reached space, we brought those qualities with us. That still doesn't explain your technology, pressed the Zalarian delegate. Our technology comes from a simple philosophy, Ambassador Sujin replied. We design everything expecting it to break, to be attacked, and to face impossible odds. Because on Earth, those things happen regularly. She activated another display showing human shipyards hidden throughout the Sol system. Massive construction facilities built inside asteroids, on airless moons, and in the darkness between planets. We've been preparing for this day for 30 years, not because we wanted war, but because we knew that someday someone would threaten our family. Family? Asked a delegate from the Peaceful Harmony Collective. But the captured humans were not related to your leaders. All humans are family, the ambassador said simply. It's how we survived on our world. We take care of each other no matter what. And now you plan to impose your values on the rest of the galaxy? This came from a representative of the Dominion of Keth, another aggressive empire that had been visited by human fleets in recent weeks. Ambassador Sujin's expression became serious. We don't want to impose anything on anyone. We only want to ensure that innocent people can live their lives without fear. And who decides what is innocent and what is not? The Keith delegate demanded. Usually the people being attacked make that pretty clear, Admiral Wu Jin said as he entered the chamber. He had arrived directly from the front lines, where human fleets were still busy liberating worlds and destroying slave ships. The Admiral's presence caused a stir among the delegates. Many of them had heard stories about the human military commander, who had defeated every enemy he had faced. Some of the stories were probably exaggerated, but not by much. "Admiral," said the president of the Galactic Council, "we were not expecting you." "I came to deliver some news," Wu Jin replied. "As of this morning, the Terran Protection Fleet is officially operational. We have 13 battle groups spread across the galaxy, each one equipped to respond to distress calls from any world that needs help." "You're setting up a permanent military presence?" asked a delegate from the Commercial Trade Union. "We're setting up a permanent protection service," the Admiral corrected. "Any species that is being attacked, enslaved, or oppressed can send us a distress call. We will respond." "And what do you want in return?" asked the Keth delegate suspiciously. Admiral Wu Jin looked at him with calm eyes. "Nothing. We don't want your resources, your territory, or your submission. We just want you to leave innocent people alone." "Impossible," declared a delegate from the hegemony of worlds. "No species provides military protection for free. There's always a price. The price," said Ambassador Su Jin, "is that you have to stop preying on others. If you can do that, you'll never see a human warship. If you can't—" She let the sentence hang in the air. Captain Hyun Soo of the UES Retribution entered the chamber with 3 familiar figures. Dr. Yuki, Engineer Bora, and Commander Taemin walked to the front of the room. They looked healthy and strong, completely recovered from their ordeal with the Vorthak. "These are the 3 people whose capture started this whole situation," Captain Hyun Soo announced. They asked to speak to the council. Dr. Yuki stepped forward first. "Honored delegates, I want you to understand something. I'm not a soldier. I'm a scientist who studies old ruins and dead civilizations. I never wanted to be part of any war." She looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. "But when the Vorthak captured me and my friends, they made a mistake. They thought they could torture us for information and then enslave our entire species. They thought we were weak because we chose peace." Her voice became stronger. "They didn't understand that choosing peace and being unable to fight are 2 completely different things. Humans have always known the difference." Commander Taemin spoke next. "I sent that distress beacon expecting to die in an alien prison. I never thought anyone would hear it, much less respond with 27 warships. But that's what humans do. We answer the call when our family needs help." Engineer Bora was the last to speak. "The galaxy has been ruled by fear for too long. Strong species attack weak ones because they can. That ends now. Not because we want to rule anyone, but because we won't let bullies hurt innocent people anymore." The chamber fell silent. Finally, the president of the Galactic Council stood up. "The human proposals are unprecedented," he said carefully. "No species has ever offered to protect others without demanding territory or tribute in return. That's because no other species comes from a world like Earth," Admiral Wu Jin replied. "We learned long ago that the strong survive by protecting the weak, not by exploiting them." "And what happens to species that refuse to accept your protection?" asked the Keth delegate. "Nothing," Ambassador Su Jin answered. "As long as you don't attack innocent worlds, you'll never see us." "But if we do attack others?" Admiral Wu Jin's expression became cold. "Then you'll discover why evolution made us the apex predators on a world full of things that wanted to eat us." Over the following days, the Galactic Council debated humanity's proposals. Some species welcomed the protection, others worried about human intentions. A few aggressive empires threatened to fight any human interference in their affairs. Those threats ended quickly when the UES Vengeance and her escort fleet arrived at the Keth home system and destroyed 3 invasion fleets that were preparing to attack helpless colony worlds. The Keth Dominion surrendered within hours and agreed to withdraw from all territories they had conquered in the past 50 years. A month later, Ambassador Su Jin stood in the same chamber to address the council again. This time the mood was very different. "The Terran Protection Fleet has been operational for 30 days, she reported. "In that time we have responded to 47 distress calls from 23 different species. We have liberated over 300 worlds and freed more than 500 million people from slavery." She paused to activate a Holographic display showing the changed political map of the galaxy. 6. Aggressive empires have agreed to end their expansion programs. 12 species that were facing extinction have been relocated to safe worlds. The number of active conflicts in this galaxy has dropped by 60%. And the cost? Asked a delegate from the banking consortium. 3 human ships damaged, 17 crew members injured, 0 human worlds conquered. Ambassador Sujin smiled. We told you we didn't want anything from you. We meant it. What happens now? Asked the president of the council. Admiral Wu Jin stepped forward. Now we continue our mission. The galaxy is a big place, and there are still people out there who need help. As long as someone is calling for aid, the Terran Protection Fleet will answer. Even if it takes forever? Asked a young delegate from a recently liberated world. Commander Taemin, now fully recovered and wearing the uniform of a Protection Fleet officer, smiled. Delegate, you have to understand something about humans. We're the species that survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and every disaster our world could throw at us. We don't give up ever. Dr. Yuki stepped forward one last time.